Okay, we're going to try and cover Halachot of Pesach. It's going to be two parts. We'll do first part this week and second part next week, B'ezrat Hashem. It's going to be a little bit longer session, and hopefully we'll try and cover a lot of halachot which is relevant. So the first thing is that what's the first mitzvah on Chodesh Nisan?
The first mitzvah for Rosh Chodesh Nisan.
Yeah. First mitzvah is Birkat HaIlanot. The Gemara says, Aroei Ilanot b'Chodesh Nisan, and you see that they blossom, then you make a bracha, Ilanot HaTavot Sh'asa Lo Be'olamo. It's a special bracha.
We have the entire Chodesh, right?
Oh, so absolutely. So Gilad is right. It's the time that person has the whole month to make the bracha b'Shem u'Malchut. After Nisan, then you can't make the bracha b'Shem u'Malchut, but you can make the bracha without Shem u'Malchut, which basically means you miss the bracha. However, there is a mitzvah with Rizin Makdimin. With Rizin Makdimin, which to do it as soon as possible. And the first opportunity to do it is Aleph Nisan. This year it's on Shabbat. We don't do Birkat HaIlanot on Shabbat. It's actually machloket. According to the Mekubalim, we don't. So that's what we do on Sunday. The earliest we do it Sunday morning. Ben Ish Chai says, what's the reading behind it? So on a simple level, understanding of the Gemara is, there's beautiful trees that we enjoy the whole year round. And when we see them rejuvenating or re-blossoming afresh in the new year, then we give thanks to God and all the good trees and beautiful trees that He's created in His world. Says the Ben Ish Chai, what's the deeper reason behind that? He says the bracha we make on trees corresponding to Adam or Etz HaSadeh. Man is compared to the tree of the field. And like a tree is good, a person also needs to make himself good and re-blossom and bring out good fruits. What does it mean a person has good fruits? Your actions are your fruits. You do good actions, you have good fruits. You do bad actions, you got bad fruits. Yeah, rotten fruits. So when normally the bracha on seeing something is when you see it, you make a bracha. For example, when you see the sea, you make a bracha. When you hear lightning or when you see lightning, you make a bracha.
What's the bracha for seeing the sea?
Or if you see Yam HaTichon or Sema Bereshit, you do different bracha. But there's brachot that you make on seeing unusual creatures or on seeing a king. You should also make a bracha. But all these brachot, you don't have to go out of your way to make the bracha. If you see, you make a bracha. You don't see, you don't make a bracha. Apart from two, one is Kiddush Levana. We go out especially to see the Levana to make a bracha Kiddush Levana. And the other one is to see a king. If you have an opportunity to see the king, the queen, or even maybe a president also called the king, you make a bracha on the king. Why? The Gemara says the reason is because when you see the glory and the kavod that is given to the king, and eventually you see the king Mashiach, real Melech Yisrael, then you see the difference of what kavod Hashem gives to the king and what Hashem gives kavod to Melech HaMashiach. Then you'll appreciate it. That's one of the reasons. But here, with the bracha of Birkat HaIlanot, is different to all other brachot, that a person should actually go out of his way and try and see it. Why is that? Why is that? So, says the Zohar Kadosh, as Bodan and Ben Ish Chai, there's different neshamot which come down in a Gilgul into this world. Now, some neshamot come back as a person, as a human. Some come back as an animal. Some come back as a tree or as a plant life. That's when we make a bracha on them, when we eat them. But he said there are neshamot which are inside and they come back into living trees. And that's why when a person makes a bracha on them, he redeems their neshamot and they'll be able to go back to where they need to go to. So that's why he said it's actually better to go to the trees which are outside of the city, mechutz la'ir, because those are where the mutzmun shamot, and the person should try to go out of his way and make the bracha on them. And in fact, this is one of the reasons he says that we don't make bracha b'kat ha'elanot on Shabbat. Shabbat is Aleph Nisan, so you should be able to make the bracha. Now, halachically, there's nothing really wrong with making a bracha. However, according to the Mekubalim, it's called borer. Borer is when you separate the psolet from the ochel. It's one of the malachot which you're not allowed to do on Shabbat. Borer is to separate the good from the bad, the bad from the good. You can't take out the bad things from the good. So when you're making the bracha on Eilanot, you're taking out the nitzatzot kedusha. That's like borer, so they don't do on Shabbat according to the Kabbalah. Okay, so let's just say, what's the minimum requirements for Bikat Eilanot? So like Gilad said, you can do the whole month with the bracha, but there is a mitzvah of Zriz Megdim, which means to do it early on Rosh Chodesh. There was a minhag in Morocco to do it on Chol HaMoed. Why was a minhag to do it on Chol HaMoed? One reason to do it B'rov Am, and because people didn't all used to come to Bet Knesset every day, but they used to come on Chagim. So on Chagim, they would tell everyone to come together, not to lose out, and to make sure everyone gets to do the mitzvah of the bracha of Bikat Eilanot. That's what they would do together. That's the minhag. However, an individual who goes to Bet Knesset every day, or even a group of synagogue, they should all go as early as possible, even on the first day of Rosh Chodesh, if you remember, if you can, if there is blossoming, and do it together, Be'ezrat Hashem, to get the mitzvah of Tzarezin Makdimin. Now, very important, what tree do you make a bracha on? You can only make a bracha on fruit trees. Fruit trees, but with no fruit. That means the fruit trees which have, before they bring out the fruit, there's a blossom, the flower. That's when you make a bracha. If there's no flower, you can't make a bracha. If there's already fruit, it's too late. If there's a flower and a little bit of fruit, that's also fine. As long as the flower is there. How many trees do you need? Oh, so you need a minimum of 2 trees, but they can be of the same kind. There's a hidur to them to be 2 different fruit trees, but even if it's 2 trees which is the same kind, then that's also fine. So 2 lemon trees or 2 apple trees, that's also fine. Very interesting. The Or Letzion says that it's better to do Zrizin than to do B'rov Am. If you have opportunity to do it later with the whole community, or do it by yourself and do it early, it's even better to do it by yourself and do it early. Because Zrizin Makdimin, which means to do early, is better than doing it B'rov Am. However, it says Or Letzion, if you have opportunity to do it outside the city, I can make the bracha outside the city, but I'm only going to go out the city, let's say. So now what's called outside the city? I don't know, maybe going to Milton Keynes is called outside the city. But let's say if I'm going out. So I'm only going out, it's on Tuesday. So I can either make it on Sunday with B'rov Am, Bezrizin Makdimin, but in the nearby, or I can go outside the city in a few days' time. What's better? This is a chiddush for me. It says the Or Letzion is better to do it outside the city, even later on in the month. Even after Pesach, or even Chol HaMoed. But if I know I'm going to do outside the city, that's even better than doing it. Okay. So I just thought, if there's any more questions on Bikat Eilanot? No. Okay, so
Time of the day.
Oh, so very good. I wasn't going to mention it because you mentioned it.
No, I'm asking because there is sometimes between Mincha and Arvit that there was a question there that.
So it's fine. You can do it any time of the day. According to the Tzitz Eliezer, you can also do the bracha at night. As long as you have lighting and there's enough light, you can do it also at night. That's fine as well.
Mm-hmm.
One question. Yes.
Sorry. Do you make the blessing on trees that have been pruned?
Yes, very good.
During the Shmita.
Shmita, yeah. So very good. So that's fine. According to the Or Letzion, even if they've done work in the Shmita Be'isur, you can still make a bracha on them. But if they're planted in Shmita, then you shouldn't make a bracha on them. There's 2 differences. If they're planted, no, but if they've just been pruned or done any work during Shmita, then that's fine. Last question, what about women? Do women need to make bracha of or not?
I'm guessing no.
So is actually the yes, they do need to make a bracha. It's undisputed in the poskim, also Rabbi Netanel and Olitzion. They all say it's not considered the mitzvah shesh zman gorama, because it's not good to do with the zman. Whenever there's going to be a livluf, that's when you make the bracha. And if for different parts of the world where they don't have the blossom this time of year, then when they have their time of year, that's when they make it, even if it's in Tishrei. I don't know, in the southern hemisphere, it could be works differently. So whatever month they do it, that's when they make the bracha. Okay, we're going to now talk about agalat kelim. So everyone's busy with cleaning the house for Pesach and cleaning the rooms. So when it comes to all the rooms in the house, it's just cleaning that, make sure there's no chametz there. When it comes to the kitchen, then we need to do achsharat kelim. So there's going to be a lot of information. Okay, some of it we spoke about last year. So it should be a chazara. It should be, most of the things should be already familiar with and getting more familiar. And it becomes easier as we go along. We get used to the halakha. It makes it easier to remember them because we've done it last year as well. So just to recap, nothing should be new now. Agalat kelim. So we're talking about kashering the kitchen, the things that we want to kasher. We want to use a kitchen. Some things we buy especially for Pesach. You have to know there's some things that we kasher and we clean for Pesach. There's some things that we cannot kasher for Pesach, and there's some things that we don't need to kasher for Pesach. Okay, so that's what we're going to learn about Bezat Hashem in the next Bezat Hashem 20 minutes or so for the shiur. So the first thing is din agala. Where do we learn the din of agalat kelim from? So the Torah says from Klei Midyan. When Bnei Yisrael were in Midbar, they took kelim, which means vessels, pots and pans, and from the goyim friends, the Midyan. Now the Midyan, they cooked inside their pots all their meat, which was not kosher. And now they want to use those pots. So the Torah says, Kol davar asher yavo ba'esh, taviru ba'esh. Whatever they used in fire, use in fire. Kol asher lo yavo ba'esh, taviru b'mayim. Wherever they use in water, you use in water. So Rashi tells us, Kederech tashmisho karech shor. However it's used, that's how it's clean. I'm just telling the general klalim, the rules, and then we're going to go into the details. So that's the rule. Depending how you used it, that's how it gets cleaned and kashered. אם תשמישו על ידי חמין, יגילו בחמין. אם תשמישו על ידי אור, יבלו באור. So there's basically two different ways of koshering something which gets absorbed non-kosher food, which on Pesach, which means anything which is absorbed chametz. How can you absorb chametz or absorb non-kosher food? Only through heat. Now there's two ways the heat can absorb the food, non-kosher food. Either dry, which means from fire, that means like grilling or toasting, or through water. That means you boil something, okay, or maybe frying something, hot water. Those are the two things. So halachically, the two terms is hagala and libun. The difference between hagala and libun is by fire, like when you take a Bunsen burner and you burn all the anything which is absorbed in the metal or whatever it is which absorbs, and hagala is with water. Now sometimes you need libun, sometimes you need hagala, sometimes you don't even need hagala. You have irui. What's irui? Irui means when you pour from a clear rishon. We're going to explain all these again. When you pour for hot water, boil hot water, and you pour it over things which are used cold, then you kosher them also through cold. Okay, some things don't need to be hechshed, they just need to be cleaned, but thoroughly cleaned. Yesodi. How you say Nikoin Yesodi? Thoroughly. Okay, so that some things just need to be cleaned. If they're clean, that's already kosher for Pesach. Okay, so now we're going to say, things that you don't want to use for Pesach, they don't need to be kosher at all. Just need to be cleaned. So everything in your house you clean, But if you don't want to use it for Pesach, then you don't need to kosher it.
Or sell it.
Oh, very good. Selling. What do you sell? You don't sell.
The things you said that you're not going to use for Pesach, but you need to clean, either clean it or sell it.
Yeah, so you don't actually sell the utensils. You actually only sell the chametz in the utensils. Okay, and it's very important because if you actually sell the utensils, then when you buy it back, get it back, you actually need to tovel them again in the mikveh because you just got it back from a boy. You only sell the chametz, which is inside the kelim. So if there's one part of your house that you're not using, you could just lock it up and sell all the chametz in there, or garage, or if you have a shed or storage place, machsan, you just lock it up. You don't go inside there on Pesach, and you sell that to a goy. That's fine. If you're going away for Pesach as well. If you're in for Pesach, then we check all the rooms and we clean all the rooms. Make sure there's no chametz. What do we do in the kitchen? So I just want to again talk about the two klalim. First klal is kibolo kach polto, which means the way it absorbs the non-kosher food. That's the way it expels what it absorbed. In the terminology halachic, it's called kibolo kach polto. If you have a cup which you have coffee in it and you dip your biscuit in it, okay, so that is chametz cup. How did it absorb the chametz? From kli sheni, because let me explain what is kli rishon and what does kli sheni mean. Kli rishon is a pot on the fire. It's called kli rishon because it's on the fire. Kli sheni is when you take from the pot, which is on the fire, kli rishon, and you move it to another kli, which is not on the fire. That's called kli sheni. So anything which is on the stove, frying pan, pot, they are all called kli rishon. Anything which is not on the kli rishon is called the kli sheni. So cups, plates, cutlery, all of them are called kli sheni.
And all kli rishon, they need libun?
No. Very good, Gilad. Only kelim which are used dry need libun. If they used normally pots and pans are used with water or used with oil for frying. The only thing which is need libun is if you have sometimes like a grill, which is used dry. Sometimes people have like a pan, which is a grill that they just put meat directly on, or fish on, or anything which is directly on without any liquid in between. So grills or toasters or things like that, which is not used dry, that needs libun. Okay, so the first rule is kebolo kach polto. Something which is used on dry, for example, a shipud. How do you say shipud in English? Anyone?
I don't know.
Okay. Shipud. Shipud is the stick that you put meat on when you barbecue and you grill. That's a shipud. Or anything which is you're grilling, or a net, reshet.
Skewer.
What's it called?
The skewer.
Skewer, that's the word. Very good. Skewer. So those are used directly on fire. So those are the things which need libun. Libun is through heat, which has to be at least 400 degrees, which means a burner. Okay, I'm waiting for time. Okay, we're running out of time. I'm gonna get if it absorbed through water, that means a pot on the fire, then it needs to do hagala. How would we do hagala? Anyone remember hagala? Hagala means boiling hot water. Yeah, that means.
And you put a stone in it.
Okay, we're going to talk about it in 1 second how we do it. But hagala means through boiling water, because it absorbed when you made your soup. You put in chametz in the soup or on your whatever you're cooking. So the chametz was absorbed into the pot through boiling water. So the only way to be kosher that is through boiling water.
And if I have a pan that I use the oil with, then?
Okay. So oil, we go according to Rav Shimusho. Rav Shimusho is with water, we kosher it through water.
And oil?
Oil it depends how much oil, but oil is also considered like water. It's also machloket, not so simple, but we're going to talk about it in a minute. The second thing is kli sheni. Kli sheni is all cutlery or pots or pans they don't need to do agala, they do irui. Irui is pouring from a kli rishon. That means you boil water in a kettle and you pour it over the cutlery or pour it over the whatever kli sheni, wherever needs to be done. Okay. The next rule is,
but I know that also the mediach kelim from above a certain temperature is okay, right?
yeah, we're going to talk about mediach kelim. So the first thing I said is how do we kosher it? The way you absorb, that's how you clean it. If it's used cold, then you just clean it. If it's used in a kli sheni, that means not all directly with fire, then you just do irui. Irui is you pour boiling water on it. If you use it on the stove, then it needs to be agala. And if it's used directly with fire, it needs to be libon. So this, okay, the first thing rule is that whatever you're koshering, first of all, what cannot be koshered? Is there anything that cannot be koshered at all? Yeah.
Porcelain?
Yeah. So cheres, porcelain cannot be koshered. Silicone cannot be koshered. Silicone can't be koshered. Porcelain can't be koshered. A toaster or a grill.
I was going to say a toaster.
Very good.
But then why would you need a toast on Pesach?
Yeah. Why would you need it? Absolutely right. It cannot be koshered. Teflon. Teflon cannot be koshered. Those are all the things that unanimously cannot be koshered. Okay. Plastic is a machloket. We go according to Rabbi Netanel, plastic can be kosher, and it has to be kosher the same way as absorbed. Okay, which means if it's cold, then you just clean it out properly. But if you use plastic, sometimes you use hot food in plastic, then you have to do gahagala or irui kli rishon. So the first rule of koshering means everything has to be squeaky clean and clean thoroughly. How do we kosher them? So I'm just going to go through a few examples. Let's see how far we get. And then if anyone has any questions specifically about specific things that we're doing. So a baby bottle. A baby bottle is plastic, okay? Now, a baby bottle, if you just use Matana, so I know in Israel we have two companies, Matana and Similac, which are kosher Matanas, and they're kosher for Pesach all year round. So then the bottle is fine. But if person adds in daisa, in English, I don't know, daisa, maybe porridge or something like which is chametz, then it needs to be kosher. So the easiest one is to get a separate bottle for Pesach. If not, then you can kosher the bottle. How do you kosher the bottle? You do agala kli rishon, which means it's enough to pour boiling hot water on it, inside and out, or do agala, and then that's fine. The cap, which is then it's like made of plastic. Yeah, it is silicone, right? So if it's silicone, it needs to be replaced to get a separate one for Pesach. If it's just plastic and not silicone, then according to some opinions, that can also be kosher b'agala. But many opinions say to get a new bottle for Pesach, and I don't know how much they cost in England, but here it doesn't cost too much for that to get one bottle for Pesach. Okay. So I'm just going to go in random order. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll go in and make more sense order. Okay. So let's say your kitchen. So the first part we do in kitchen is your cupboards. Your cupboards are only used to store food cold. So the only thing that needs to be cleaned for them is just to be cleaned. It doesn't need to be koshered. So you just clean them out, clean out all the cupboards, give it a wipe, make sure it's properly clean with some kind of cleaning agent, detergent or spray, whatever, and you wipe it all clean. That's fine. Fridge and freezer, how do you clean them? Same thing. You take out everything, you give everything a wipe that it's clean, and then that is fine.
Cold.
Because everything's cold, yeah. There's some parts of the fridge and freezer, for example, there's like a grid on the back, I don't know, in my freezer. There's some parts we can sometimes see crumbs inside, okay? It depends on every house. Some freezers are very clean. My freezer is used very often, and children usually shove things in. Sometimes they can see chametz inside, and you can't get out because you can't reach it because it's behind the grid or reshet. What do you do in that situation? So then, what you do is you pogem. You take a cleaning agent spray and just spray onto it. Once it's pogem, it's not ra'ui la'achila, and that's how you clean it for Pesach. That's already fine. That's kasher for Pesach. What do you do for a table? How do you kasher a table?
Pour boiling hot water on it?
Oh, so it depends. So
what shish you do? Shish you pour on.
Okay, so good. So a table depends how normally a person eats on a table. Some people always have a tablecloth on the table. They never eat without a tablecloth. Then you just change the tablecloth. That's fine. If you eat directly on the table, then the table also needs to be kashered. Now, sometimes food falls hot onto the table. Okay, you can have hot toast which reaches the table, or hot soup, or things spill on the table which are boiling hot. That's why you would need to do agdala by irui kli rishon. So here's the two options for Pesach. The same thing goes for the shaish as well. Shaish is what in English?
Worktop.
The worktop. Yes, so worktop. So I'm going to say there's different minhagim, Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. So Sfaradim, you clean it squeaky clean with cleaning agent. I don't know what do you call it in England. What do you use? Jif.
Yeah.
Mr. Muscle. I don't know what to use there. Jif liquid, whatever it is, cleaning liquid, and make sure it's all clean, and the table is all clean. And then you can do irui kli rishon, which means that you take a boiling kettle and you pour boiling water over it. That because sometimes you spill soup on it, you spill coffee on it, you spill hot food on it. So that's all clean. Now, if it's shaish, which is marble, you don't want it to crack. So the idea is not to make a sudden change in temperature. So you just pour on hot water, just to warm it up a little bit, and then pour boiling hot water, just to make sure it doesn't protect it, doesn't crack. That's how you've done all your shaish. Okay. Now, what about sinks? A sink is the same way. If you have metal sink, you do the same way. If you have a ceramic sink, then you have a problem because a ceramic sink can't be kashered like that. So according to some opinions, you can kasher a ceramic sink as well like that. But according to some opinions, you need to do a covering. Ashkenazim, they cover all the shaish, all the worktop, they cover it with silver foil or with paper or with one covering. You'll see that in all Ashkenazi houses, they cover everything for Pesach. Sephardi houses, we like our shaish, we like our worktop, we don't cover it. We just clean it and we do agdala, and that's fine. Okay. Next thing is the kelim. So the easiest to kasher is the forks and knives and all of that. Plates and cups is a problem unless it's glass. Glass plates and glass cups is fine, just to be cleaned, and then they can be used for Pesach. Metal cutlery, you can kasher it through irui kli rishon. That means you pour boiling water on it, or hagala, and that's easy. Everyone's with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, this should all be like, if we'll be familiar with all of these.
Just the last sentence, sorry, Rabbi. So again.
I just said to do cutlery, we do hagala for all the cutlery. Glass plates and cups, they don't need to be kashered. Ceramic plates and cups cannot be kashered. So you need to get separate ones for Pesach. If you've got a nice ceramic set for Shabbat, make sure you get a nice fancy ceramic set for Chag as well, for Pesach, because you can't be kashered. Now what else? Now let's do appliances, okay? How do you kasher appliances? So dishwasher is easiest because you just put on a clean cycle on its own and it kashers itself. Make sure you put detergent in it, cleaning agent, and you let it run, and that's fine, that's clean. Okay, next, pots and pans. Teflons, silicone, we don't use them on Pesach. You get new ones. Gilad's saying don't use Teflon at all because it's got diseases in it, it's dangerous, don't use it at all.
Isn't Teflon a brand?
So it is a brand, but it was a branded name, but it's also the type of coating which is can reach very high temperatures on it. And it was discovered that if it cracks, then it's toxic and it's dangerous. So the pans, it's better to get a fresh pan, clean pan for Pesach. All the pots is very easy to kasha to do agala. Now you can either do agala, and there's points in Gold Screen and in Hendon and Edgeware where they have agala, or you can do it at home. How do you do agala? I'm just going to explain how to do agala. Agala is you fill up the pot. Basically, what you should do is you get your biggest pot and do agala on the biggest pot, and then you can do everything inside the biggest pot. And this is what we do at home. We get the biggest pot, you cover it with a lid, you fill up to the brim. First of all, you make sure it's squeaky clean. Everything you agala, you kasha, you have to make sure it's squeaky clean first. After it's squeaky clean, you fill up to the boiling water. Now there's 3 stages you have to remember. Stage 1, boiling water with some fairy liquid inside it. Make it bubble. And once it's bubbling, you take off the lid and make sure that it overflows over the flows onto the top. Then everything else you kasha inside that pot. Or if you take a big pot and you get it kashed by someone else, then you can use that pot to kasha other things.
All utensils. You take a big tool, you boil it to the point it's boiling. And then you push it inside. Yes.
No, until it overflows. Once you've overflowed, then you've kashed it. Now that you've kashed it, you can kasha other things inside it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Now, if you've got like a long ladle that doesn't fit inside, what do?
The same.
It doesn't fit inside. How are you gonna kasha it?
So we'll overflow again.
No, but if you're talking about a ladle, like a big spoon or big serving handle, what would you do? So, or you dip in one side, and then you turn around, and you dip in another side. That works for hagala. Does not work for tvila and mikveh. In mikveh, the whole thing has to be under the water, one shot. But hagala, we're just taking out what was absorbed. So when you put in one side, whatever goes in the water, that gets cleaned out. And then you put out the other side, and then that gets cleaned out. Does that make sense? Yeah. So same thing with lids. Lids of pots also need to be kashed. Okay, what's next? A kettle does not need to be kashed for Pesach. If you have a mini bar of water, doesn't need to be kashed. Just make sure it's cleaned. Okay, where are we up to? Let's do, what's it called? The hobs. How do you kasher the hobs?
What is hobs?
Hobs are kiraim. Okay, so there's different types of kiraim. There's gas hobs. Gas hobs don't actually need to be kashed because that's libun chamor the whole time. But what does need to be kashed is what comes in contact with the pot. So there's on a gas hob, there is a grill,
yeah.
The grill, right. So the grill, so there's 2 ways it's kashed. According to Rabbi Netanel, you do hagala on the grill.
But that's also burnt.
So it depends. So there's some parts which don't touch really the fire, right? There's imagine the fire is only in the middle, and you've got a big pot all around. So sometimes there's very often it spills over chametz and touches all the greater part. Now you're putting your Pesach stuff on that. So what we do is you cover it with silver foil. But you make sure it's covered good, that nothing is touching it, and then it's fine. You can put your Pesach pots on top of that. Then you can actually cover the round circles. Sorry?
If you cover it, it's still
cover
there.
with silver foil.
But it's still there. Sorry.
Speak up, Joe.
It's still there underneath if you cover it.
Yes, so it's fine if it's down underneath. We don't want it to come out when you're putting on your pots.
So would that be sold?
But you can you do a gala?
Yes, so according to Chazon Ovadia, you do a gala on it. Even though usually you need to do libun, but here because it doesn't come directly into contact with food. You don't put food directly on it. Okay? Even if you're grilling, you usually just grill vegetables. You don't grill like chametz it doesn't come direct into contact. The pot's usually there on top. So that's why you can do a gala or cover it with silver foil, or you can do both. What about if electric hobs? So there's different types of electric hobs. There's electric hobs which are metallic. They should be covered up with silver foil. There's electric hobs, which is like a glass made of induction. No, what's it called? So
Ceramic?
no, not ceramic. Induction electric hob.
Yeah, I know.
You know what it's called? What do you have at home, girl?
I know which one you're talking about.
What do you have, Joe?
Gas.
Gas. So a lot of people like gas. We have gas at home, but some people like the electric. It's easy to clean. It's like glass. So according to Sfaradim, don't need to be kasher at all. It doesn't absorb anything. According to Ashkenazim, it's more complicated. It needs to be covered, or some Ashkenazim have a separate one for Pesach. Okay. What about oven? Oven is maybe the most difficult for kasher, and also machloket how to kasher it. So I'm going to mention it like this. According to Rabbi Netanel, you can kasher it. And what you need to do is you need to clean it properly with like St. Morris, very difficult, very strong detergent that's completely clean. Wait 24 hours since you last used it, and then put it on its maximum heat for 1 hour. And that's how you kasher it according to Rabbi Netanel, because kebolo kach polto. That's the way it absorbed. That's the way you kasher it. According to Rabbi Netanel,
how long it should operate on
1 hour at its highest temperature. Now, usually it takes, now let me explain why. Usually it takes about 20 minutes just to get to its highest temperature, and then it needs to be on for 1 hour at the highest temperature. And the reason for this is because the way the oven absorbed chametz, that's the way you get the chametz out. Now that has to be done at the highest temperature. Now sometimes when you get out of the oven, you leave it on for an hour and a half to bake things. So the longer it's on, the hotter it gets. And you have to reach that maximum heat of the oven. You have to reach that. So you have to leave on for a long period of time closed without opening the door. Now, according to Rabbi Ben Zion, and now people should understand this, you cannot kasher an oven. And why is that? And this is for the reason the oven is used with dry food. Dry food needs libun. So libun chamur. Libun means with fire. Now, there's different definitions of what libun is. But according to Rabbi Netanel, once you need libun, you need the highest level of libun. And the minimum degree heat is 370 degrees, which is like piping scary hot. Yeah, oven doesn't reach that hot. Only special ovens, which is called pyrolytic ovens, pyrolytic. In Hebrew, it's called pyrolyti. In English, I think it's pyrolytic, which can reach 500 degrees or 400 degrees. They're self-cleaning ovens. They're usually more expensive than a regular oven. Only those ones, according to Rabbi Netanel, you can use it for Pesach, because only those ovens reach the heat of libun chamur. So that's why we don't kasher ovens. We use like a little toaster oven. It's like a little cheap oven we use for Pesach, and that's fine. I actually wanted to buy my wife one for this year, paralytic one, but it's much more expensive than regular oven.
Assuming everything you cook in your oven,
you
never cook on the maximum temperature of the oven. Assuming.
Yeah.
So therefore, because you're able to increase the temperature to higher than what you normally cook things with, wouldn't that be classified as? Wouldn't that be classed as because you're cleaning it at a hotter temperature than you've cooked everything else? So therefore, it's burning hotter. So therefore, can you leave on for an hour on the highest temperature that you never used before? And according to
Rabbi Netanel, yes. According to Rabbi Netanel, yes.
That would kosher the oven.
You can, but I was just saying it's a difference of opinion because Rabbi Netanel and also other poskim, they say it's not good enough because you haven't reached total libun. They say that once you need libun, then you need libun, full libun. You can't just have it like your theory we're saying. According to Rabbi Netanel, he agrees with you and he says, listen, the way you used it, that's how it absorbed. So I'm leaving that to each person his discretion on how he wants to do it. What else? So, is there anything we need to speak about? What about microwave? So there's two different types of microwaves. There's some microwaves, ovens, which are like ovens, and then they would have the same din like an oven. They would need to be cleaned like an oven and kosher like an oven. There's some microwaves, which is, the basic ones, which you use only as microwave, don't have a heating element inside them. So there's different of opinion if they can be kosher at all. And according to those which can kosher them, so the way you kosher them is to clean it properly and leave a cup of water with liquid, fairy liquid or cleaning detergent inside it, and then put it on its maximum for a period of time of like 10 minutes till all of it gets soaked up into the walls. And then that's the way you can clean out the microwave oven. You have to make sure that 24 hours beforehand you don't use it. Then you put with this cup of water with fairy liquid inside it to kosher the whole microwave to get all around. And then, according to some opinions of Radia, you can use that for Pesach. But I will say again, like I said every year, better not to use microwave at all. According to some opinions, they can't kosher it at all. But even if you get a separate one for Pesach, it's very not unhealthy to use a microwave. The microwaves is proven to be cancerous. And this is what my rabbi told me as well when I wanted to kosher my microwave. We messed up. We put something meaty and milk in. We messed up. I wanted to kosher. He said, just get rid of it. He said to me, Rav Mazuz, as his wife, he was diagnosed with cancer. The first thing they told him to do was get rid of the microwave. He got rid of the microwave. She came out clean from cancer. And then they brought back the microwave because she was already clean, and then she got cancer again, and eventually she died from that. But a person, whatever you can use, then you don't need to don't use it. And you can live without it, and you can enjoy food much better without microwave. Heats up better. You get used to it. It's fine.
Every year, Rabbi.
Yeah.
You said that. You told us that last year.
Yeah. I'm going to say every year. Yeah.
I've heard that as well. Every year you elaborate more.
Okay. Is there anything else? Any questions? Okay, we're going to. Oh, well, it's getting very late. I didn't realize. I wanted to do a little bit more. Do you want to leave it for next week?
I say leave it for next week.
Okay, we'll leave it for next week. Okay, we'll leave it for next week. So maybe we'll do it next week. Do you want next week is going to be the last shit before Pesach?
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to say one more thing. Okay, now this is important. We'll do one more halacha, we'll stop here, okay? But with your permission.
Yes, you have my permission now.
Okay. Okay, well, no, we'll leave it for next week. Listen, it's very late. Okay.
You might as well.
What?
You might as well. It's up to everyone else. And you, obviously.
I don't mind. Okay, just one important halacha. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. It's actually the first halacha. Is kimcha de Pesach. Means a person is going shopping for Pesach. So you're buying the best stuff for Pesach, best wine, best matzah, best food, good meats, good fat. But you have to be misameach your wife and your children on Pesach. And it's chova also to give kimcha de Pesach, which is a special tzedakah of people for Pesach. Now I'm telling you, I know people in Yerushalayim, and they said to me, we just scrape away every month. I don't know, like, how we're going to do Pesach. It's just like a miracle for us, yeah? And I'm talking about seriously. This is
what would be the cost for like a family to do Pesach? How much is it? Like,
I don't know how much is it in England, but everyone in different.
No, in Israel, in Shkalim, how much is it?
If you just Leila Seder or like the whole Chag or like with family and with it.
The whole Chag, like family.
I don't know. I can imagine anything, depending on the size of the family, depending how much I spend, anything between 2,000 and 4,000. I know my family, we just do even, it doesn't even stop before 4,000. But just to get, I'm saying all the food and matzot and wine and also clothes for family. You should know, it's mitzvah l'samech your wife. You have to buy new clothes for your wife on Chag. And it's a serious strict halacha. Now, if you say she's gone off clothes and she's mochel, it's not yotzei, you have to buy her new clothes. Even if you buy her clothes for Chol HaMoed, it's not yotzei, you have to buy new clothes for Chag. Leila Seder, she needs to be wearing a nice dress. If you can't afford it, minimum shoes. Minimum shoes. I don't know if shoes is more expensive or more cheap, it depends on the shoe. But that is halacha. He said, even if you buy her a new oven, according to some opinions, it's not enough. She has to have new clothes. Children, how do you make them happy? How do you make children happy on Chag? Toys or sweets or candies, that's how you make them happy. Now, very important, he says, Bisman, you have to be misameach tzedakah, the poor families. In the time of the Bet HaMikdash, it was a big mitzvah lesameach et kohanim. There's a special kohanim and leviim which are working in the Bet HaMikdash. The special pasuk in the Torah says, "Oba Levi ki en lo chelek v'nachala." The Levi, he doesn't even have his own place in Eretz Israel. Right? He's working all day in the Bet HaMikdash for you. And the ger yetom v'almana asher b'sharecha v'achlu v'savu. Go take care of them. And the pasuk says again, "Halevi asher b'sharecha v'ager v'yetom v'almana asher b'kirbecha b'makom asher yivchar Hashem." And he says it 3 times in the Torah. He says, "Make them happy. Atem mesamech et sheli v'ani mesamech et shelchem." Now the Gemara says in Masechet Menachot of Kuf Yud, nowadays we don't have a Bet HaMikdash. Where's Gilad gone? Come back, Gilad. Nowadays we don't have a Bet HaMikdash.
I listen.
Okay, now we don't have Bet HaMikdash. Who is considered like the Kohen and Levi? Says the Gemara in Menachot, you can look it up, Kuf Yud. He says, those Avrachim which are learning Torah, Talmidei Chachamim, they learn Torah day and night, and they teach halacha, and they give shiurim in Am Yisrael. They Talmidei Chachamim, they are like oskim ba'avodat Bet HaMikdash. The Gemara compares Talmidei Chachamim who are learning Torah like the Kohanim who are serving the Bet HaMikdash. That's why it's a mitzvah to give them. And all aniyim of Eretz Yisrael is like aniyei Erecha, because all of Am Yisrael should be living in Eretz Yisrael. So that's a big mitzvah. So when you're spending the money, that's what you're spending on your family, on your wife, to make them happy for Chag. And don't forget to give tzedakah to Aniyei Yercha, to your city, or those who are living in Eretz Yisrael. Who do you give to? Those who are studying Torah. If you have someone in your family studying Torah, you give to him. You have somebody in your village, in your community, he studies Torah, you give to him. If you don't have, you give to Eretz Yisrael. If you want other people to give to, they'll be very happy with any amount of money. Any amount of money. People, they don't know how much. But the biggest thing is the bracha that you give to them. And then the Torah, it promises you. What does it mean, Sheli? Hashem loves Levi, the Ger, Yetom, V'almana. That's Hashem's thing.
Is it part of the tzedakah? It's considered part of the tzedakah?
It's definitely part of my sword. Oh, very good. Thank you for mentioning that, Gilad. The Chodesh of Nisan is the Chodesh of Tvuah. Okay? Now I'm going to repeat it. 1 second. I'm going to say this. Yeah. One of the reasons, the Pesach Nidonim ala Tvuah, which means on Pesach, we pray, there's Tal Talu Matar, and it's bracha for Parnasa. Says the Gemara, the Ba'avon Bitul Ma'asrot, because a person doesn't give Ma'asrot, that's why the Shamayim, they stop giving down rain, which means things don't grow. Now, rain doesn't only mean physical rain, but also means bracha and Parnasa means the rain. That's when you give bracha for rain, you pray for Parnasa. And that's why he says, when a person gives Ma'asrot, Eftach lachem arubot ha-shamayim, ve'eshpoch laberikoti lechem baracha ad belidai. So that's why Chovah Kedosha to come and to give this Masrot, to give money of Kimcha de Pesach. That's why Shulchan Aruch says in his halacha. His first halacha, Kimcha de Pesach. We always give for Pesach. Why? Because this is a few reasons. Reason number 1, because this is what people need it the most, to make Chag. Torah says, Be mesameach beger yetom v'almana ve'alevi, and I'll be mesameach them. And the third reason is because you're getting blessed, you're getting judged for your parnasah this month. So this is the month when you want to make sure you're giving. Because when you don't give enough ma'asrot, that's when the bracha stops. But when you give shefa, the Hashem will give you b'shefa. So I would like to end off with that bracha. B'ezrat Hashem, we should all be zocheh to be mekayem the mitzvah of Kimcha de Pesach, and we all is bezocheh to get fulfilled, to get the bracha when we mesameach the Levi, the Ger, Yetom, Almana, and the Talmidei Chachamim. Then Hashem will be shefa and bring upon us everything that we give. Always comes back with interest. And be zocheh to liftach lanu Arubot HaShamayim, Baracha Ad Beli Dai. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All a good night and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for staying.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night, Yaron. Thank you for staying, Jaron.